The warm hues of the evening sun stretched long shadows across the grocery store parking lot. Officer James Reynolds, sitting firmly in his patrol car, surveyed the area with his characteristic rigidity. Known for his strict enforcement of the law and his personal biases, James was a familiar figure in the community. He took immense pride in maintaining order, but his methods often leaned into overreach, especially when dealing with people of color. Before we dive deeper, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. Your support helps us share these impactful stories. On this particular evening, James's gaze locked onto a black woman perched casually on the hood of a car. She was engrossed in a phone call, laughing freely and gesturing as she spoke. To James, her relaxed demeanor felt out of place, perhaps even suspicious. His eyes narrowed, his assumptions already forming a narrative in his mind. He watched her for several moments, his certainty building like a storm cloud. Finally, deciding to intervene, he exited his car. Adjusting his belt and straightening his badge, he marched toward her, every step exuding authority. The woman noticed his approach, but remained composed, continuing her conversation without missing a beat. Her calm confidence seemed to unsettle James further, fueling his suspicions. Stopping just a few feet away, he cut into her phone call abruptly, demanding to see her identification. He claimed it was standard protocol for anyone lingering on private property. The woman, still unruffled, met his gaze and calmly explained there was no legal obligation for her to produce an ID. She added that she was simply waiting for someone and not engaging in any unlawful activity. James's tone sharpened, his frustration spilling over. He accused her of being uncooperative and warned that failure to comply would result in her arrest for obstruction. His voice boomed across the parking lot, drawing the attention of a few nearby shoppers. Despite the growing tension, the woman remained composed. She ended her call, reached into her purse, and retrieved something. Not an ID, but something entirely unexpected. James's instincts kicked in as his hand hovered near his holster, preparing for the worst. But instead of a weapon or identification, the woman revealed a leather wallet and flipped it open. The sight of the gleaming FBI badge inside stopped James in his tracks. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The bold letters spelling out Federal Bureau of Investigation shone like a spotlight cutting through the darkness. James's confidence crumbled instantly, replaced by a wave of panic. The woman, her demeanor now commanding and firm, introduced herself as a federal agent. Her words were sharp and deliberate as she pointed out that his actions were not only unnecessary but indicative of a deeper issue, his bias. She made it clear that such prejudice had no place in law enforcement. James stammered, scrambling for excuses. He mumbled about just doing his job, about concerns over potential threats, but the woman's unwavering stare silenced him. She calmly pulled out her phone and made a call. Within minutes, the situation spiraled beyond James's control. The agent contacted his department, detailing the encounter and demanding an immediate review of his conduct. As she drove away, leaving James standing humiliated and powerless, the weight of his actions began to sink in. By the time he returned to the station that night, his superiors were waiting for him. The ensuing investigation was thorough. The department concluded that James's behavior was unacceptable, an embarrassment not just to himself, but to the entire force. His assumptions and overreach highlighted a systemic issue they could no longer ignore. James was suspended without pay for a month, a punishment that sent shockwaves through the department and the community alike. During his suspension, James had no choice but to reflect. The incident was more than just a professional misstep. It was a wake-up call. The story spread quickly, picked up by the media, and public opinion turned overwhelmingly against him. Community leaders and activists seized the moment, calling for comprehensive reforms, including mandatory bias training for officers. Meanwhile, the FBI agent became a symbol of resilience and justice. Her decision to stand firm against misconduct resonated deeply. She reminded everyone that courage and accountability could drive real change, even in the face of systemic prejudice. For James, the time away from his badge became an opportunity for growth. He attended seminars, engaged in conversations with community members, and began to understand the depth of mistrust between law enforcement and marginalized groups. By the time he returned to duty, he was a changed man, carrying with him the lesson that power must always be wielded responsibly and with accountability. The confrontation in the parking lot became more than just an embarrassing episode for one officer. It became a turning point. The department implemented new training programs to address bias, and the community felt a renewed sense of hope. As for the FBI agent, her work continued, but her actions that evening left a lasting impact. Her badge was more than a symbol of authority. It was a beacon for justice, a reminder that standing firm against prejudice is the first step toward meaningful change. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content.